Focal Point studio, Don Wildmon. Don is the founder of the American Family Association. He is the chairman emeritus, and we're pleased to announce that his memoirs have just come out, available by going to our store at afa.net. The title of the memoirs, I Had a Vision, God Had a Plan. Don, welcome to Focal Point.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be here.
Well, this is a milestone moment, Don, and be able to make this memoir available to folks. And really, this book kind of walks people through kind of the history of AFA, and it also talks a little about your history with your wife, Linda, and your family.
Yeah, it's not a great thesis, theological thesis. It's basically some things I wanted to say that would show kind of person that I am or try to be, and things that we ran up. Some of them's funny, some of them aren't. There's a chapter in there about a radio station that kept going off the air. The dish kept being moved, and they'd go back and change it, and it was moved. So happened one day they were driving, and there was a cow. The antenna was out in the middle of a cow pasture. There was a cow, and the cow was leaning up next to the dish, scratching its back. They couldn't figure out all that time what was wrong, and that cow was scratching its back.
So what'd they do to fix that problem?
Oh, they put it and tightened it down, and I think that's when we decided we'd put them on top of the units.
On top of stuff.
So, yeah, put them up on top so they couldn't get to it.
Well, Don, the first chapter, this is just to start on this note, because this is a more personal note. First chapter is about your courtship with your wife, Linda.
Yeah.
And that looks to me like one of the shortest courtships on record. Didn't take you long to make up your mind, did it?
If you're going to do something, there's no need of messing around. Go ahead and do it. I went to junior college, community college, during the Christmas holidays, and saw Linda. She was a cheerleader, and I asked my friend, my girlfriend, that I was with, who that girl was. She told me, well, she's going to study with a boy from Memphis. So I didn't bother anymore, Then that summer, it so happened that Linda came to my girlfriend's house for a little while. There was about 6 girls, and we talked for a little bit. But then they left, and later on, a couple of days, I called Linda and asked for a date. And she said she had to study for chemistry. And I believed, most of the time they had to wash their hair. But I'd take chemistry. And so I asked her the second time, and if I had to ask the third time, it wouldn't have been the third time, because I'm not dumb and stupid. I know when, if a girl don't want to go with you, she doesn't want to go, forget it. But I did see Linda, asked for a date. We got in the car, and her dormitory was up on the hill, started down the hill. She couldn't have been in the car more than 10 minutes. And I looked at her and said, I think I'll just marry you.
This is 10 minutes into your first date.
First date. First time I ever said a word to her, So she didn't say anything, but she said later she wondered what she'd gotten herself into.
Well, and now she's found out
52
years later. Yeah. Now, let's go back to the beginning, Don, just very briefly, how AFA got started.
Well, when I was 9 years old, I went to a revival at our Methodist church and gave my life to Christ at age 9 for all that I knew that meant. I thought at that time that God wanted me to be a missionary to China. But I didn't know. I struggled. But I knew, or I felt, that God had something unique. I hate to call it special. I really didn't talk much about this over the years, because a person could receive it as you thinking you're more holy than I am. Mm-hmm. So I tried, and the other thing, I didn't want to embarrass God. Some people don't care about doing that, but I don't really want to embarrass God. And so I saw what was happening in the culture. It really started in the 50s and early 60s primarily, and decided that, hey, maybe this is something that I should be doing. To make a long story short, there's 2 or 3 or 4 more stops, and finally it came to a turn the television off week when I asked people to turn TV off. And that is something that had never been done. And it was successful. The ratings went down. But from that point on, I knew what God had in me was to found AFA and grow it and make it an organization that would stand for what's right, for Christian principles.
And that began in 1978, and fast forward to 2009, folks are listening to us right now on the AFR Talk Network.
Yeah.
AFA's been in radio for a long time, since 1991 with Inspirational Network.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to branch out and start a talk network?
Well, to be honest with you, these were stations that were not really producing. We were losing money, and they were not, which indicated that people aren't listening, or if they're listening, they're not going to give any money, to help you. So I looked and studied and decided that a talk network just might work. We didn't have anything to lose because we're losing money anyway. So we started to talk, and for the first couple of years, it floundered a little bit, but I think it's turned into a real good medium right now.
Now let's look ahead, Don. One of the gifts I believe God's given you is the ability to kind of see down the road, see 5, 8, 10, 20 years into the future, kind of have a sense of what's coming. If you look at our culture, where the United States is right now, what do you see? Where do you see we're going to be in 10 years?
We are going to be in tragedy. I hope I'm wrong, but as you lose your moral base, everything else capsizes too. And we've lost our moral base. It's not just, somebody say, you ought not say that. I'm not saying I'm quitting fighting. I'm not saying I could be wrong. I'm saying from what I see now, we've lost our moral base. And when you lose that, you lose a lot of other things. Right and wrong there is no right and wrong. Well, I hate to put this, people think I'm trying to criticize. I'm not. The current president that we have, on 2 or 3 or 4 occasions, he's determined that he's above law. He can make law. He can do what he wants to, and the media gives him a ride. This is exactly where we're headed, and in fact, where we are, because we've thrown out God, and we're left with an open space and no right and wrong to fill it up.
Now, in looking into the future, that's where I think a lot of us think things are headed. Is there a way that we can draw back from the abyss? If there is, talking here with Don Wildmon, founder and chairman emeritus of the American Family Association, what can we do, the people in this listening audience and their churches, what can we do? What's in our power? What can we do that might avert that catastrophe?
The pastor should be the leader. The pastor ought to stand up. It's his future that we're fighting for. Anti-Christian bigotry is growing, and the next thing they ought to study the issues. In the book, I've got a chapter on secular humanism, and that's the largest religion in America. People don't believe it. They don't know it, but it's the largest. It's a godless religion. It's a religion without any God. And so what people need to do is change their attitude, and this is very important, register and vote. I mean, I can't understand people saying, your future, your freedom is on the line, and all you've got to do is go down and cast a ballot, take a neighbor with you. And really about 20% of evangelicals won't even bother to do that.
And I found that when I was a pastor for 25 years, and I would have this experience, Don, of talking to fellow pastors about getting involved in some kind of effort to make some kind of, reclaim some turf for truth and morality and all that. And they weren't interested. They didn't want to get involved.
No.
And yet their sermons would be populated with all of these illustrations about how terrible things were.
Yeah.
And yet they didn't seem to be prepared to lift a finger to do something about it.
Yeah, that's, unfortunately, I've learned that over the years. In fact, I count now just a few pastors who will help, and the ones that won't help, I really quit wasting my time. I don't have that much time to spend with them. But there are some good pastors, good ministers who see what's happening. You know, one of these days, the liberals that are really pushing this agenda, they don't realize it's going to get to them, because there's going to come a time when, you know, they're going to be different, and the liberals are going to turn on the liberals.
Yeah, they'll be some of the first victims.
Yeah, they will be.
My guest has been Don Wildmon, the founder and chairman emeritus of the American Family Association. Got a brand new book, I Had a Vision, God Had a Plan. It's his memoir of a life well lived. You can get a copy of that by going to store.afa.net. If you're watching on television or audio video streaming, you can see a copy of the cover of the book on the screen. You can call 662-844-5036, or you can go to store.afa.net and get a copy of Don Wildmon's memoir, I Had a Vision, God Had a Plan. Well, Don, thank you very much for dropping by to chat with us. God bless you. Thank you. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Focal Point AFR Talk.